Today I'm going to show you southern U.S. cities where you can almost live on Social Security alone. Welcome back to the world according to Briggs, and a look at retirement, real estate, and where your money's going. We all know that Social Security doesn't pay much. The average in 2024 is about $950 or $1,450 for a couple. But those numbers are factoring in people that got it early for some reason. Maybe they became disabled, something of that nature. So it's a lot lower than the reality for most. What we're talking about in this video are people who worked most of their lives and paid into it. If you did it right, you get somewhere around the maximum. That can be between $2,700 and about $4,873 for someone who retires at 70 and is married. It's around $1,900 if you're single. Those are the 2024 numbers, and I'd give you a lot of other numbers, but that would slow down the video and turn it into a math class. Now, are these cities perfect? No, but they are affordable and they're semi-decent. That's what we're looking at today. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 10, Johnson City, Tennessee. You know, we never give Tennessee enough love on this channel. Anyway, Johnson City is one of those places where life just seems to run at the perfect pace. People love living here because it's got everything you need without big city headaches. It's nestled in the Appalachian Mountains, so you're surrounded by nature, but still close enough to civilization to grab a decent cup of coffee. So let's talk about affordability. Unlike those pricier cities, you won't have to sell your soul and live on ramen to afford a house. Whether it's the friendly locals, endless outdoor activities, or the fact that your wallet will thank you every month, Johnson City is a sweet deal pretty much all the way around. It's got great stats. The cost of living here is 16.1% below the national average. The average home value here is about $277,000. Now that's different from the median. A lot of people ask why I don't use the median. It's because it's unrealistic. If you're a realtor or some kind of, mortgage person, you understand it. The average person wants to know what the average home value is, because that's kind of tells you what the average house is going to be. Median really doesn't. It does, but it doesn't. The average rent here for a 2-bedroom is about $1,097 a month, and their livability score is 75. Now, when it comes to livability scores, my experience, over 70, it's a pretty good place to live. Number 9, Greensboro, North Carolina. Greensboro, North Carolina is a great place to live. At least that's the opinion of most of the people that live there. It's sort of in that sweet spot between small town charm and big city perks, all without draining your wallet. This is one of the best places to live on this list, and seriously, you could afford to buy a house here with your Social Security and maybe a little help, a part-time job or something like that. And that's how most of these are. Most people these days don't just live on their Social Security. They have a part-time job or something like that. That's just the reality of the United States. But in Greensboro, North Carolina, there's always something to do, whether it's hitting up the local parks, grabbing some killer barbecue, I will give them that, or going on a walking tour. Yes! Greensboro has this thing about walking tours. They have two that interest me. They have a haunted Greensboro walking tour, which you can go around and look at all the really cool haunted places, and they have a true crimes walking tour. I saw a picture of those. They do them at night, first of all, which makes it even cooler, and they use old school lanterns to walk around the town with them. Yeah, that's not creepy. One of my favorite things about Greensboro, they don't have much traffic, at least compared to bigger cities. It's really non-existent. So if you like some good coffee, a couple true crime tours, and manageable rent, Greensboro's calling your name. The cost of living here is about 11.9% lower than the national average. The average home value is about $258,000, which, it's a little up there, but it's not the worst. The average rent, though, is about $1,250. Livability score, this where it's really good, 83. That is solid. So like I said, this is a great option if you got Social Security and probably a part-time job. If you watched our video about places you could buy a home for under $100,000, Greensboro was on that, but those were houses that are going to need some work. Those are available in Greensboro too if you really want to live on Social Security. Number 8, Columbia, South Carolina. Columbia has a lot going for it, and it's not just sweet tea and sunshine. People love living here and retiring here because it's a friendly, laid-back place where life doesn't move at 100 miles per hour. Plus, it won't break your bank, which is always important. The cost of living here is pretty affordable compared to bigger cities, so you can actually enjoy your weekends without having to cancel your YouTube TV subscription. From Saturday tailgates with diehard Gamecocks fans to strolling through the Riverbank Zoo, Columbia is a solid mix of southern charm, outdoor fun, and a little bit of college town energy without the crazy price tag. And if you don't know, the University of South Carolina is called the Gamecocks, and people walk around that city with shirts that say things like "Go Cox" or "I love the Cox." I'll leave a link for one down in the description area below. The cost of living in Columbia, South Carolina is 12% lower than the national average. The average home value is about $230,000. A 2-bedroom apartment goes for right around $1,200, and the livability score is a solid 79. This is a nice town. I've been here many times. It's beautiful. It's nice. And before you do, yes, every city has a rundown neighborhood or two. Or if you're in Chicago, it's a rundown neighborhood or 12. Number 7, Spartanburg, South Carolina. Yeah, let's keep in South Carolina for a bit. The locals love living in Spartanburg. There's different websites that rate cities by how the locals feel, and it's usually something like 1 to 100 or 1 to 50 or something like that. Every time I look at Spartanburg, they just love it. It's always getting high marks. This is another one of those cities that you'll find in the South, which is a legit city, but it sort of feels like a small town all at the same time. It is a college town with the University of South Carolina upstate here. They have a few other colleges and universities, but smaller ones. That's the big one. And it only has an enrollment of about 5,000 students. That's the numbers from 2022, by the way. All in all, this is a great place to live. Plus, the cost of living is super affordable. Like, I can actually own a house and still afford tacos affordable. You're close to both the mountains and the beach, so weekend getaways are always on the table. And let's be real, avoiding big city traffic is a pretty sweet deal altogether. Here's the numbers. The cost of living here is about 12.8% below the national average. The average home value is about $221,000, and the average rent price is about $1,150. Their livability score, 75. Not bad. Number 6, Sulphur, Louisiana. Yes, people like living in Sulphur, Louisiana for a few reasons, and it's not just because the name sounds like something they remember from high school chemistry class. For starters, it's super affordable and your wallet can actually breathe here. If you've never heard of Sulphur, Louisiana, it is part of the Lake Charles metro area, and it's not too far from the Texas border near Beaumont. Housing prices here won't make you cry, and you can still snag a place without selling an organ or starting a YouTube channel where you tell people about places in the United States and shamelessly call it world according to Briggs instead of the United States according to Briggs. That apparently rubs a lot of people the wrong way. I don't get why that's such a big issue. Like every place in Louisiana outside of New Orleans, they all feel like they're small towns. It's kind of a thing in the South, but Louisiana and, I want to say South Carolina, it's a bit more. At least that's the vibe I always got. In these towns, you'll know your neighbors without awkwardly avoiding eye contact. Add in some good old Southern charm, and you've got yourself a cozy place to call home. Just watch out for the mosquitoes. They're not shy here. And I gotta tell you, it was really hard to find a place that I'd suggest to people as a place to move in Louisiana, and I found Sulphur. It does have some problems, but it is affordable. The cost of living here is 17.8% lower than the national average. The average home value is about $180,000, and the average rent for a 2-bedroom is about $1,000. Livability score, 71. For a place that cheap, that's a good number. Number 5, Ocean Springs, Mississippi. Ocean Springs, Mississippi is one of those hidden gems for folks who can live the good life without breaking the bank. It's got that charming coastal feel, minus the touristy chaos you'd find at bigger beach towns like Biloxi and Gulfport. The town itself is laid back with art galleries, local seafood joints, and just enough nightlight to keep it interesting. Plus, the cost of living is super reasonable, especially for a coastal town. It's like getting that beach house dream at a discount. What's not to love? Oh, and did I mention the sunsets? They're basically free also. The cost of living in Ocean Springs is 8.9% lower than the national average. The average home value is about $261,000, and the average rent for a 2-bedroom apartment is about $1,150. Their livability score, 84. Not bad. Number 4, Macon, Georgia. People love living in Macon, Georgia, because it's got that small-town charm without making you feel like you're stuck in the middle of nowhere. It's got history, music, and barbecue joints that could make you cry tears of happiness. If you haven't picked up on it yet, I'm a big fan of barbecue. The best thing about Macon, Georgia is your wallet won't be crying. Housing here is super affordable compared to those big cities where rent feels like a second mortgage. You can actually own a home here without selling a kidney. Throw in a good mix of parks, friendly folks, and a slower pace of life, and it's easy to see why Macon, Georgia feels like home to so many. The cost of living in Macon, Georgia is 15.3% lower than the national average. The average home value here is $169,000. Rent for a 2-bedroom apartment, $1,050. And you've got a livability score here of 75. That is not bad. Number 3, Crestview Hills, Kentucky. People love living in Crestview Hills. One man described it as finding a perfect pair of jeans. It's that comfortable. And it's like normal Levi's too, not some designer jeans that cost an arm and a leg. Crestview Hills is affordable. Seriously, the affordability here is a big deal. You can enjoy a cozy suburban life without feeling like you're paying city prices just to breathe. Crestview Hills is another place that's just kind of that laid-back feeling. There's a lot of places in Kentucky where that's their thing. They're just kind of laid back. They live their life. They enjoy their life. You know, it's just calm. Whether you're into quiet streets, friendly neighbors, or just being close enough to Cincinnati for the occasional big city fix without the noise, this place nails it. It's the kind of town where you can actually enjoy life without draining your wallet every single month. This is what they call a home rule class city. It's in Kenton County, Kentucky. That's like a tongue twister right there. And it's almost a neighborhood, not a city itself. They've even got a small university called Thomas More University in town. They also have a country club. It's called 5 Seasons. Apparently 4 seasons was already taken, so they went with 5. This part of Kentucky does get a little cold in the winters, but you know, if that's something you're not worried about, this is a great place to live. Their cost of living is 11.8% lower than the national average. The average home value is a little bit up there. It's $314,000, and their average rent for a 2-bedroom apartment is $1,093. It almost makes sense to rent here instead of buy. Their livability score, this is how they got on the list. 84. That is excellent. Anything over 80 is a place you should really consider. Number 2, Huntsville, Alabama. We've talked about Huntsville many times on this channel. It is a great city. It's in the South. In my opinion, it's one of the best cities in the southern states. And it's not like the rest of Alabama. Huntsville is the most populated city in the state of Alabama. Financially, the city offers a low cost of living, and retirees surviving on Social Security may want to take note. Their cost of living is lower than average, and their housing is pretty affordable too. It's extremely affordable when you consider it's a desirable place to live. Normally, when you're talking about a place where everyone wants to live or it's a nice place, prices are going to be higher. Huntsville's pulling it off. They're not terribly expensive. The cost of living in Huntsville is 9.6% lower than the national average. The average home value is $276,000, and the average 2-bedroom apartment goes for about $1,200. Their livability score, 83. That is not bad. All right, before we get to number 1, if you're thinking about moving to one of these cities, there's a link for a website called Home and Money in the description area below. They can get you in touch with a real estate agent anywhere in the country. And the question of the day that you could leave in the comment section. When you're looking for a new place to live, leave a comment listing the order that these 3 matter the most, 1 being the most important: crime rate, jobs, and cost of housing. Let us know. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, Mobile, Alabama. Yep, staying in Alabama. People love living in Mobile. It's got that perfect mix of southern charm, coastal vibes, and a whole lot of affordability. I mean, a whole lot of affordability. For a big city, it is very inexpensive. You get to enjoy beautiful Gulf Coast sunsets without worrying about being evicted every single month. Rent and home prices here are much more reasonable than you'd expect from a place that has this much to offer. Plus, there's no shortage of seafood, festivals, and friendly neighbors who'll wave at you even if they don't know you. This is actually the place where they had the original Mardi Gras in the United States. It's laid back, easy living where the only stress you're going to have is deciding between shrimp or crawfish for dinner. On my last cruise, I met a nice family from Mobile. They had that whole southern draw. It was nice. It was really sweet. They're really nice people. Mobile is known as the safest place to retire in the U.S., and it's becoming more popular for retirees. Over the last couple decades, Florida's desirability has kind of waned a little bit. I mean, they're still the most popular retirement destination in the U.S., but these days a little bit less than it used to. That's where places like Mobile and Charleston, South Carolina, and Savannah, Georgia have kind of gained some popularity. In my opinion, I think Mobile's one of those places that's going to become really popular in the next few years. All right, here's the stats. The cost of living in Mobile, Alabama is 10.4% lower than the national average. The average home value here is $193,000. The average 2-bedroom apartment goes for $1,045, so this one makes more sense to actually buy a house, in my opinion. The livability score is 74. Now, 5 years ago, it was 67. It's getting better. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Now go out, have a great day, and most importantly, be nice to each other.